When you mentioned inner loop and outer loop of the closed feedback loop, some people listening may not completely understand. So would you mind just breaking that down for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about an experience that an individual will go through, they'll walk in and let's take something simple. You go to the grocery store, you're going to pick up 5 or 6 items for dinner. You're going to check out anywhere along there. That experience could break down. It could be a product was out of stock. It could be you went to the produce department and things looked like they were falling apart. Or you get up to the cashier and the cashier might have just been having a bad day and said very flippantly, like, "Oh, you just had to pick my register, didn't you?" And I recognize that as a bad day. I was a cashier at one point. I know how that is.
Mhm.
So at any one of those points, you could have that service breakdown. And you walk out of there and you have your receipt in hand and it says, "How was your visit?" And you come back and you say, "It was terrible because." And it
Mhm.
might have been one of those items that sets you off. It might have been all three of those items that set you off. But that closed loop feedback, basically, once you finish that survey, gives that store an opportunity to call you back and say, "Hey, I want to apologize for what happened. Empathy is a big part of it. Don't try to cover up a mistake. Don't say, oh, you misinterpreted what happened.
Right.
Just apologize and say, if you come back in, call me, Ken, and I will give you $5 off your next purchase." And that's closing. That's what we call the inner loop. It's very tactical. It's one customer at a time. It's very much taking in and saying, we messed up with you. We're going to fix it. And then you can then take that same closed loop ticket and talk to the cashier that mouthed off, talk to the produce department and say, "Hey, maybe freshen up the older stuff. Don't use it, don't bury it underneath and put the fresh stuff on top because everyone takes the fresh stuff." And then, all the things. And then make sure you talk to the stocking manager and say, "Hey, when we're out, make sure it's getting back on the shelf. We had this in the back and a customer missed out." So it's very tactical in nature. And, I hesitate to call it one off because there's a lot of these that happen on an everyday basis. And that's the reason for what we call the outer loop, which is if it happens over and over again, if we keep going in there and we see, hey, our produce is getting skewered as this horrible mess. Every time customers are coming in, they're complaining about it. Well, is that a problem with the distributor we use? Is it a problem with how the store is stocking it? Is it a problem with, hey, maybe the heater's not working correctly in the store? It could be any one of those things. So that outer loop brings the task force together and says, we're going to create a plan to fix this, measure it, assess it, and make sure we're doing better. Because you certainly can't give $5 off every time someone complains.